Hello and welcome to another live demonstration. Today I want to talk about the new Schmincke AQUA granulation medium. So first I want to talk about what granulation is. So what are granulating colours? Schmincke have been very good to you, and on their colour chart they've put a G on the very few colours that actually granulate. Usually about, I think they have about 20, and there's a little G symbol, so that shows you which colours will granulate. So what's granulation? First, I want to show you what isn't granulation. So this is a non-granulating colour, so it won't have the G on the colour chart. So just put it on. My brush isn't wet enough. Let's really load up because I want to do a nice big swatch. There we go. Plenty of colour. I usually use a natural hairbrush to do swatches because I do find that they go on much more evenly. But this worked. So granulation doesn't always appear straight away. What you have to do is let the colour dry. But I know that won't granulate. It's going to be a nice, flat, even colour. So granulating colours. Now, French ultramarine is a common granulating colour. You can get ultramarine non-granulating, or sometimes it's called ultramarine, but French ultramarine is a granulating colour, and it gives you such lovely mottled effects, grainy. So I don't know if you're going to see it as it goes on. There's loads of colour, loads of water. It's a swatch I'm trying to achieve, and I like when I'm doing a swatch to make sure I've got plenty of surface covered, not just a little teeny little area, because then you can see the full effect of your colour. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see that now, but as it starts to dry under the studio lights, you can see here how it starts to mottle and grain, and that will dry quite grainy, but it gives you nice texture effects in foliage, in forests, in background, and a lot of people use this in the sky just to add texture. It's a lot of fun. So non-granulating, I hope you can see quite a flat colour, granulating. So what does granulate? Why do I need granulating medium? So this is a really neat little unit, a little bottle, fine spray, which means you can isolate areas. It means you can spray where you want it to rather than it going all over. So let me try it on this colour I applied earlier. Oh, it doesn't work. Now, I knew it wouldn't work because I had tried it earlier, and it has to be applied to a wet colour for the effects to work. So that was a bit of a... This is why I do these things, is to learn this. I've tried to read the instructions. I had missed that you need to apply it to wet paint. And so I happily let the area dry and sprayed on, and nothing happened. So it wasn't the product's fault, that was me. So let's have a look at what the granulating colour could do. You can see here French ultramarine is now starting to granulate. So I don't know how dry those areas are now, so I'm just going to wet my areas again. So non-granulating colour alongside the granulating colour. Made quite a mess on my palette, but that's normal. Go. I'll just mix them in. It's a bit stronger ultramarine because I want the stronger the colour on there, the more granulated effects I can find. So I know that area will granulate, so let's see what happens when I put a spray on. So fine, and at first you can see it kind of goes mottly, but I know as it dries it will start to have a much more granulating, grainy. So the granulating area will granulate even more. The non-granulating area, I'm not sure if I've caught it at the top, can't see it at the top, will start to granulate and will add texture. Let's see if it will do it on there. That's too wet now. So a nice little bottle to add texture. So why don't you join me in a few moments, and what I'll do is I'll do a little study of a fish, and I'll use the granulating spray just to make more areas have a little bit more texture.
Let us bring out the artist in you. If you'd like to learn how to paint or improve your painting, the SAA, Society for All Artists, is here to inform, encourage and inspire you every step of the way. When you become an SAA member, you get so many benefits, including the free bi-monthly newsletter Paint, packed with inspiring step-by-step projects, fascinating articles, and detailed information to get your creative juices flowing. Discounts on over 13,000 art products featured on the SAA website and in the Home Shop catalogue, with free order line and free delivery in the UK mainland. A devoted SAA team on hand to answer your questions and give you the confidence and motivation you need to start painting and develop at a pace that suits you. Plus, a free welcome pack filled with gifts and practical help to get you started, as well as the opportunity to make friends with like-minded people.
First thing to be a member is the inspiration from the magazines, to be able to purchase things at a very reasonable price.
Yeah, you get the reduction on all the materials, the advice you get.
I can shop from home.
It's a community.
It seemed like a very friendly sort of organisation.
If somebody's thinking of joining, don't spend too long thinking. Just join. They'll love it.
And we're live.
Hello.
We're back live again.
Gary's putting me off a little bit. So welcome back. Like I said earlier, I'm going to do a little study, a little demonstration using the granulating medium. So I just want to do a quick fish, nice and loose. And the reason I can do this quickly is because I've done it many times. Doesn't mean it works perfectly every time. Okay. So I know the fish I was using as reference had a really curly fin here. I thought that was quite fun. Don't like that. The eyes are not in the right place. That's easily fixed. Move it. I'm not overly worried about where things are. It's a study. It's the colours that are going to be important. But you can see how sometimes you just have to adapt and move things around. That'll do. It's fine. So the first thing I'm going to do with this fish is I want to create a background. And because you need to use the granulating medium wet, I'm going to make sure my paper's as wet as I can have it, just so areas don't dry. So it's going to be a wet in wet technique. Just drop it onto the page. Under the lights I can see how wet this is, which is really good. I'm just going to be a little bit more careful around the fish. The reason is I want to keep that area dry. And I'm using a natural hairbrush because it's designed to hold the water. So it makes this bit easier, being able to wet the page and get everything wet quickly. And that means I can work quickly and everything stays wet. Okay, so going round the fish with a little bit more care. And I'm not going up to the edge. I just want it to create kind of a halo, just suggest it's in the water. So now I've put the water on, I'm going back to my trusty favourite brush. This is the Silver All-Rounder. I just find it's a really trusty brush. It gives me a nice point when I need it, but can cover areas well. So into the Perylene Green, which is a nice dark green, and just make sure I've gone up to the fish and I'll dot it around. Trying to keep it dark because I think the spray will be more effective, especially as a study, and I want to show you the effects of it. If I give you the best colour for it, and you can see. And with everything, test it first. Always pre-test. because you'll find effects that you didn't want, along with effects that you really do like. So I know testing, you want to get on with the painting bit, but I do think setting aside time to do testing really will help you learn and improve and move on. So sometimes you need to just slow down, think about what you're doing. So now I'm adding some of the French ultramarine, which I know is a lovely granulating colour anyway. So I've put a fairly non-granulating colour against the granulating colour. And I'm going to let them mix on the page. I want to see some of the blue, but I know this makes a lovely deep bluey green. Again, that's from testing and practicing, seeing what colours mix with each other. So I'm not going to be overly surprised by their outcome. Maybe a little lighter over here. Okay, so the page is wet. So I want to add the granulated medium, but I don't want it to go on the fish. So I'm going to try, and I want to leave some areas a little isolated. So I don't want to touch the page. I'm just going to try and isolate the area. Oh, look at that. Isn't that fun? And definitely down here. And you do need only a little. So I've not put any in here, and I've let those areas have more effect. I'll just spray a bit more. So you can see now how that granulating is adding more texture to your painting. What I need to do is I need to let that dry, because I want to work to the fish. If I worked into it now, unless I was uber careful, everything would tend to merge, which normally I don't mind, but on this occasion I actually want to keep the fish a little crisp. So bear with me while I just blast the page. Quick as that. I'm not overly worried about the wetness out here. I'm not going to be touching that area. So again, back to my silver brush. I'll move this back, just dumping it off. And I want to just build up the fish. But you can see here how it's really made some really interesting and exciting textures. Think of that in a background in a woods, or I'm using it as the background in the water. And the reason I don't want to put any on the fish at the moment, I might if I see how it's going, is because I want to have different textures on the page. So the fish, I want to just keep nice and fresh and clean and crisp. So I'm being careful, leaving white areas, because this kind of fish has nice white areas. Again, I may need to blast the fish again, because I want to move on and then just build up some shape. So put some yellow down here. And I'm not overly worried about where it's going, because again, in the last few marks, this is when suddenly things come together. So I know this is dry, so I know it's not going to run into. Using the tip of this wonderful brush, I can drag in and start to bring out some of the detail. The fins are very carefully put on. I want to make sure we can see them. So at the moment that still looks like a bit of a mess. I've not put the detail in. So again, blast it with a hairdryer. Watercolour is, depending on what technique you're using, you do have to let things dry, except if you're putting granulated medium on. That should be dry enough. So now, using some of the ultramarine and some of the red. I'm going to make a violet. Again, just test. A bit darker, a bit bluer. Just take off. What I'm doing is taking off some of the water in the belly because I don't want it too wet. The way you load your brush with water is important. Just dipping it in loads the whole area. And if you've got a lot of water in the belly, what it means is you get very wet paint. So I'm just trying to dry it off, but make sure I keep the pigment at the end. So now, just adding a little bit of detail. Just bringing out basically shadow underneath. You can see that's working quite effectively. I don't want to go around the whole fish. The point is I'm just going to bring out detail. And the backbone goes around here on this one. So a little bit more, just dipping the tip of my brush in, just so I load the tip and don't load the belly. I think that purple's working really nicely into the fish, and you can see now it's taking shape. Just along the back here, let's bring out some of this fin that goes across the back. Now this area I don't want to overwork because the shadow will be here underneath this way because that's the bottom of the fish. So I'm going to leave that. Just think about this fin and making it a little bit stronger. Now it's not working with the colour I had, so I'm just adding some of the perylene green and some of the red just to get my darkest dark. Want some red. So now this is my darkest colour and this should be used sparingly. Too wet. Now you can see just how I've just started to, and I'm dipping it, just using the brush, dabbing it around, not thinking about it too much, but I do feel I've lost some of this fin here, so I just need to indicate that it comes around the back here. And I don't think I need to do much more. The only thing that's bothering me a little bit is this eye, it's too white. I'm just going to put a smidge in, just take it back. So you can see the granulating effects, the real interesting effects, and the contrast between the nice smooth colours, which is purposely what I've done. And so, you know, think of how you can use this really interesting medium. I love the fact it's in a spray bottle. I think that's really nice. It's easy to just blast it on. Try your distances, again, test. So close up will just blast lots of the liquid on. From a distance will gently spray and you'll let it drip on. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you have a play and learn to do swatches and learn to test before you put it onto a final piece. So join me later for some more live demonstrations.
Next week.
Next week.